She is a disability fashion stylist and the owner and founder of Cur8able.
Prior to my education and years of studying dressing with disabilities, I didn't know what footwear to, I didn't even think like this. I had to learn it.
And what are some like common design changes that can be made?
Family, the last report said it's 1.9 trillion globally.
Well, she is Stephanie Thomas.
I do, and people still look at this as if it's a niche market.
Welcome back to the Blonde Highlights podcast.
We have another special guest on today. She is a disability fashion stylist and the owner and founder of Cur8able. She is Stephanie Thomas. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. So nice to be here.
Thank you so much for coming on. Today, we are going to be talking about Stephanie's journey, how she created Cur8able, and just all the great things in between. So buckle up, Blandrage. We are in for a fun ride. So first of all, how are you today?
I'm doing really well. Today was an interesting day. Should we tell them?
Yeah.
I was supposed to be in the studio, wind up going to, I don't know if you can see them or not, but I got lashes because I was like, I don't know how to do my makeup. My makeup artist isn't available. So let me grab some lashes. In the middle of that, I meet someone with a chronic disease, and it looked like she was really struggling. And I think she thought I worked at the store because I went next door before I went over to get my lashes. And so I just started helping her. And I had planned to be in studio, but I just felt like that was such a divine appointment and such a really good indication of the work that I am doing and that I want to continue to do. Because as I'll share throughout the interview, the last 3 years have been very difficult for me because I felt like maybe my voice or my work wasn't needed anymore. And so to have that moment before this interview, I just felt like I needed to honor it.
Aw, it's very serendipitous. That's so beautiful.
I'm so glad you were able to assist.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And she was just blown away. She was like, I don't believe in coincidences. So it gives me even more kind of fervor for something that I've been doing all of my life to say, hey, I know you've been doing it a while, but people still need to know what you're sharing.
No, that's beautiful. So what first sparked your passion for fashion and accessibility?
Yeah, I love that question. I fell in love with fashion really when I was a child. My mother sewed a lot. She was definitely like a fashion icon in a very minimalist way, very feminine, very chill, and I just admired it because it was so effortless. But the thing that really hooked me was thrift shopping. I used to go on Saturdays, and this is before people started to try to curate trends at the thrift store, which makes me nauseous. But I would just go and I would stay there for hours on hours, and I would buy, because you could buy these amazing, even designer pieces. I'm from Chicago, so outside of in the suburbs, there were these amazing pieces you could get them for 10 cents, 20 cents. It was just incredible shopping. And I would deconstruct them. And that's what happened for me. Now, as far as the accessibility, like I shared in my TEDx talk, so that I don't plagiarize myself, I was in college. Even though I'm born with disabilities, it wasn't until I was in college and someone kind of made me aware of how I dress with disabilities. And they were like, why don't you button your cuffs? And I was like, oh, wait a minute, because I don't have a right thumb, I never buttoned my left cuff. And so that's when I became keenly aware of it. And I was participating in the Miss America pageant system. My first year, I was in the top 10. And my second year, I was third runner-up to Miss Kentucky. And that allowed me, that's only important because it allowed me access to coaches. And the coaches had boxes on boxes of research on this topic, and it just changed my life, to be honest.
Yeah.
Wow. What encouraged you to teach fashion marketing?
Fashion marketing is something that I've always loved, and I was in a PhD program trying to figure out how to take my disability fashion styling system, which states that clothing should be accessible, easy to put on and take off. It should be medically safe for the body, not causing any harm, and that it should be fashionable. So I was like, how can I take this and into a business environment? And I think it was the end of my first term. They sat me down as the group, my advisors, and they were like, we love you, but you need to go to fashion school. You need to go get a master's degree in fashion. So I went to fashion journalism because my first master's is in communication in general. So I'm a storyteller. And so that was just a natural fit for me because my styling system is all about merchandising and marketing and about seeing and revealing possibilities in clothing that people often overlook.
Okay, yeah. And can you share the moment that you realized that the fashion industry wasn't meeting the needs of people with disabilities?
Yeah, I think our love for fashion, and I speak for the many, many, many people, including the woman I met today, a lot of our love for fashion feels unrequited simply because of the fact that I think it's less on the fashion industry. The fashion industry, in my mind, is a microcosm of society. Mm-hmm. Society has this idea of disability that is also perpetuated by many of the charities, well-meaning charities. I'm not putting anyone down because any movement forward is great. But if people only see disability through the charitable model, meaning it's something we take from society and we do not give back to society, that impacts the fashion industry because they're just humans. So they take those belief systems into their work. In addition to that, people think of it from the medical model. They think, oh, disability is only about getting better. Like it kind of dehumanizes us. And so I look at fashion as a microcosm of how society is in general. And so it's not a blame game, but I think where we're doing something really exciting and unique with Cur8able is we're helping them understand that there are other ways to enter the disability market, right? They don't have to start with adaptive clothing. They don't have to, be kind of disingenuous with their DNA. They can be true to their DNA. They can stay true to their core products. At the same time, they can enter a $1 trillion market that when we make things accessible, it changes life for everyone.
Yeah.
Because it makes life more accessible for everyone.
Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit more about Cur8able and what motivated you to kind of start that?
Yeah, Cur8able started as a blog, spelled LUV, love what you wear. And it literally was me, just like I meet people on the street just like I did today. I promise. It's almost like a magnet. I draw people, or I draw people's parents or children. And part of it is me. I used to go and accost people and talk to people.
Yeah.
But then I'd be like, hey, do you need something? And I wasn't getting paid for this. I was working in media, but I started Love What You Wear so people could have somewhere to come. But one of the things that I noticed was that people just needed options. They needed to know kind of what to look for, what to wear. And so I started it called Love What You Wear, and people thought it was a store. I was like, okay, I'm doing something wrong. And every iteration of my Love What You Wear always had people thinking, oh, this is a store. So I was like, I just need to transform it and change it. So I went more towards fashion marketing. As I worked on that graduate degree, I started to learn that. And Cur8able was birthed out of that. But Cur8able started as a catch-all, meaning I would do my styling through Cur8able. I would do whatever I needed to do, consulting through Cur8able. But now Cur8able is more pointed and more focused. It's a creative studio. We're taking our time. We're not trying to be everything to everyone. We're looking for the smallest viable market. And what we want to do is we want to show them our perspective. I call it how we see it with the letter C, because what we see when we look at clothing and opportunities to enter the disability market is not these performative, campaigns. Okay. And no shade on performative campaigns, except it just doesn't move the needle. And if you don't have an omni-channel end-to-end, kind of plan for this, it's not going to work. There's no employment resource group that's going to help you learn disability from a panel.
Yeah. Can you give an example of one of these, just for our audience and our listeners, just for the performative campaign and what exactly that would look like, what you're talking about in the sense of that?
Okay, without giving exact examples, because 6 of them came to mind.
Yeah.
I will not be the bestie boots on your podcast.
Yeah.
And I will say it looks like people bringing together people with disabilities and calling. I'm not a fan of universal kind of inclusive dressing, because that doesn't change how people are treated in the stores. It may make a great, photo here and there. People put out press releases and they go, hey, pat us on the back, non-disabled people, for what we've done for these people.
Yeah.
And then you don't see anything else. You don't hear anything else. And the thing is even when I used to style, people do e-com styling, they would get a little upset with me because I was like, you have to humanize it. It cannot be like normal styling. You have to start with the body. But that's good, because that means that people will purchase it, because then someone that has that particular body shape or similar will say, oh, I can trust it. It's just like all of us. All of us right now, I think I'm a 12, 14 people. I look at things and I want to know, hey, I can wear this size. This is going to work for me. And performative is more of, we want to be inclusive. We kind of want to take advantage of that $1 trillion market, but we really don't know how. And this is how we're going to tip our foot in it. We don't even take those clients anymore. We're not interested. We pass those on to our friends that specialize in novice. We want people that are not afraid to be transformative. We want brands that have said, you know what? Tell us how to do it. We'll co-create with you.
Yes. I love that, because just from being in the plus size world, like I've been a plus size model for years now. And although I'm not at all putting it on the same level of comparison, but just from what I've seen and learned about, it's very interesting how brands will tap in just enough to be like, hey, we're a part of this. However, you can't get plus in stores and everything online is sold out. So it's kind of just jumping on the bandwagon to, generate more sales and all of that. So I just think that it's great that there are brands that will actually work with you, who are getting the message of like, hold on, wait a second. Again, to make it about plus, you could put me in the same dress as a mainstream model, but like if those tweaks and things aren't happening, it's not going to fit my curvy body. So
talk about
right. So it's great that there is someone that's like, hold up. I remember one of the things that you had mentioned from your TEDx talk was talking about the pockets in the back of the pants and the length of the pants for seated people. And I think that those are the things that these brands and these companies would never even think to go there. So I like that there are brands who are like, hey, actually, we want to just actually do this and not just kind of like check off a box, and who are willing to work with you. So how has that process been?
So I'm glad you asked that. First of all, I want to circle back and say, actually, the plus size market and the disability market are like sisters. So I actually follow what is happening in the plus size market as an indicator of what is happening in disability. It's so disingenuous. And it is so, and even today, I'm always like, wow, they can get away with this. And so that's why I try to come up with solutions, because I figure I'm not going to state a problem that I can't find a solution. And that leads me to your question. So what we've done the last 3 years, I'm not going to lie, because of familial obligations and my own sickness. I had long COVID for a long time. And I'm 56. So I am going through, I don't know if it's peri, I don't care if it's Tommy, menopause, whatever it is. I needed to get me done.
Yeah.
Yes.
It had me on, brain fog. I just couldn't work. And I never really even thought about it, because I don't look in the mirror and see my age, if that makes sense. I don't even really think about it. So I've kind of been off the grid doing a ton of research and design. So what we're launching in 2026 is actually new for Cur8able. And I have I started a book years ago called Fitting In, and I'm just going to be very transparent about that. I did not complete Fitting In because the company that the book was published through did not do peer reviews. And as someone that's in the classroom, also, I just think peer reviews are super important for the credibility of the book. So I am actually writing the book with a company, and I'm hybrid producing, publishing the book because I need creative control. And the book is called the same thing you'll see on our website, which is Expand Your Market, Not Your Inventory. We're introducing the intellectual property, and then we're introducing the tech that supports it. And then we'll start taking on brand partners.
Okay.
And I don't care what the size is. I'm not really interested in large conglomerates that have their hands tied. I'm more interested in brands that have control over, their C-suite, kind of more,
Yeah.
not just boutique brands, but so that's where we are with the process. And I know I've shared a lot, but the reality is people that run companies are people. And so with everything that was going on in my life, I think that 3 years was a huge blessing for me because it gave me a chance to stop and go, what am I doing? How am I going to move forward in this? And what is the real pain point from people I have worked with in the past? And the number one pain point, they just don't understand it.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be, the consulting is not strong. They need people that are going to partner with them, tell them the truth, and co-create with them. And I don't mean, and this is no shade to people that are not, you work in the industry. So just bringing on people because they're disabled is a great start. But prior to my education and years of studying dressing with disabilities, I didn't know what footwear to, I didn't even think like this. I had to learn it. So expecting people with disabilities to tell you things that you don't know, that we probably just do innately, is not sufficient. It's not sufficient and sustainable to enter a new market.
And on this kind of vein, what are some common challenges that people with disabilities face while shopping for clothes?
Yeah, I love this because I was wondering if I should have probably given it context because sometimes people are listening and this is something new to them. So let's just I'll start with shopping and I'll mention a little bit on dressing. So with shopping, like the lady today, it's just a lack of knowledge on maybe the part of even someone that's newly disabled or has a chronic illness. So then it's the intimidation factor because they only knew how they used to dress.
Yes.
They do not know what their body needs now. Then there's the factor of fatigue while shopping, not being able to say, there's nowhere to take a seat. There's nowhere, you get where I'm going. So just the physical act of shopping. Online shopping tends to be, and I'm sorry, brands, it's horrendous because I can type in things and the tagging is so off on the back end, mostly because in my case, with technology, you know how there's a thing called technology bias for the disability community, and often for plus size and quote unquote marginalized group, there is sentiment and toxicity models that literally label us as outliers. And so it marks it as negative. So we have a barrier getting to the actual products we're looking for. So those are some of the barriers to online shopping as well as in store. And some of the barriers to dressing is the act of getting dressed. One of the things that I've noticed, even with my father who's he has paralysis now in his right arm, that simple act of doing this to put on a jacket or a coat, it takes some people hours to do things alone when that is a barrier. And when I tried to get my dad something that was adaptive, he was like, I'm not ready for those clothes yet. So the act of getting dressed, having their closet honor them, especially if someone was emulating standing up and now they use a wheelchair, some people their closets don't even honor their ability to access it. And then for people that were chronically ill that are now disabled or living with a new chronic illness, their identity, their self-esteem is still attached to who they were. And so working through that process is also, it's just challenging.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I've struggled a lot with autoimmune issues, and I've had some pretty rough phases. And in those phases, it at times was very hard to get dressed. And I know even I have like really bad swelling in my ankles and feet sometimes, and like shoes, socks. It's just can depend on the day. But luckily, I'm in a bit of remission right now.
And
Yeah.
that's something that I deal with a lot. And one of the things that I try to tell people is we have to shop a little differently. For me, I was born with my feet. If people are like, well, what's her disability? It is invisible, but the visible part of it is I was born with 3 toes on one foot and 4 on the other. And people just go, oh, she's born missing toes. But I have spasms, I have back pain. There are a lot of things associated with that. And so one of the things that I have to do is sometimes I have to double up on the shoes that I buy. There are days that my feet are swelling. There are days that I have pain. And for me, it's the opposite. Most people think we're put on a flat or a sneaker. But if I put on something with a little heel, not even a wedge, it makes me feel more comfortable. My feet don't hurt because it's that arch
Mm-hmm.
that provides comfort. So, and like you said, and I've had clients with sometimes they get water gain in their feet, they have swelling, and from one day to the next, they have to find something that works for them and buy different sizes. And it's just a reality. It's just a reality. And the quality of the shoe has to be different as well, because that is going to impact their ability to be comfortable, even if they use the wheelchair to ambulate.
Yeah. And what are some like common design changes that can be made to meet the needs of different people?
And here's the thing, I usually never begin with design changes. I start with the core products that the brand has,
Okay.
because people with disability are already wearing clothes.
Mhm.
So what I try to do is I work backwards. I do curation and not creation.
Mhm.
So curation says, what do you already have? And I don't mean inclusive fashion. What do you have for your smallest viable market that is able to meet the needs of people with disabilities? Some things that some of my friends that are in the space of adaptive fashion, some of the things that they do the snap in the magnetic closures. They have, pockets in different places. They do have clothing, as I mentioned earlier, higher in the back, lower in the front. They do have, zippers on the end, or they keep the actual, hold on, I have a puppy in my lap. They keep the actual, they put a slit here to keep it from closing, so that makes it more accessible. The collar is wider, like I have on one today, where the collar is wider so that it would make it easier to put on and take off. But for me, I just think that innovation is innovation. I see fashion as art, I see it as movement, and I see it architecturally. So I think if we can start to look at, I literally go in and curate what a brand has. And I say, we can use this, this, and this. And then we look at it statistically. What are your greatest opportunities? We find those greatest opportunities and we build from there. Once they know what they have and what they have to offer, I think the thing that's exciting is they can then incorporate that even more into their brand DNA effortlessly.
What are some misconceptions about disability and fashion that you would like to correct?
I'd like to start with disability.
Okay.
This is Ziggy, everyone.
Yeah.
I'd like to, may I? Thank you. I'd like to start with the idea that disability is a monolith, and there is only one way to see disability, and that you can always see disability. That's the greatest myth, because people have one image in their mind of what it is. In addition to that myth, the eternal child. People with disabilities are not children unless they're children, right?
Yeah.
Adults don't need to be coddled and treated like children because our bodies are different. Because in my mind, different isn't bad. It's just different.
Yeah.
And another one I think is that disability is a niche market.
Yeah.
That there's no money in that particular market, when in fact, disability is on par with tech, luxury, the African American, the Hispanic. I mean, like, it's right there in the $1 trillion family. The last report said it's 1.9 trillion globally. And with our family and friends, it just blows up to like $18 trillion, because they're the ones that will purchase and help us do what we need to do. And people still look at this as if it's a niche market. And I think another myth of the fashion industry, you said the fashion industry with regards to disability.
Yeah. Or even both, even just the fashion industry, both.
Yeah, I think some of the for accessibility, I want to make sure I answer this correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Am I hearing you say what are some of the myths about the fashion industry as it relates to disability?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so some of the myths for them is that it is something that can be handled the way that they handle other marginalized or niche groups. It's almost flipping it on the head for them, like as opposed to just say a fitting. A normal fitting is the designer does their thing, you come in, you're fitted,
Mm-hmm.
as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to the designer having to meet the person first, understand about their body and how different things are impacting your body from skin issues to you get where I'm
Yep.
going. So having to flip that on its head is important, and that's not an assumption. I was invited to speak to a C-suite, and one of the gentlemen that was representing, the styling and fitting and all of that, he was sitting in for someone, and he was like, "Well, we have to do fittings. What do we do?"
Oh, wow.
And I said, "You hire disabled models?"
Yeah.
He was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh yeah." And that showed me I'm being a little snotty right now. But at the moment, it really helped me understand, oh my gosh, I eat, sleep, and drink this, and I'm born this way, so I don't know the world any other way. But something as simple as hiring a disabled model for your fitting
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
was beyond you know what I mean? It was beyond something that they thought about. And I don't want to demean that. I feel snarky because if you've been talking about something for 30 years and then someone says, "Well, we have to do a fitting, what do we do?" It feels like someone's punched you in the face,
Yes.
really.
Yeah.
Yes. No.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the only other thing is I feel like there are a lot of good people that want to do things to help, but it's like dating with intention.
Mm-hmm.
They have to be able to say no. There are people that are at these brands and they'll take a pay cut or they'll do it without. No, you
Yeah.
have to say no. We need to honor it just like we would any other brand or any other new market we're going to enter into, and this will pay us over and over and over and over again because
Mhm.
every human gets injured, like it or not, at one time or another. Every human will need to have accessible dressing. It could be for any reason. It doesn't even have to be disability. So if you keep your closet or your brand ready, you don't have to get ready.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I find it really frustrating as a plus size woman. And again, taking it just back to that, it's kind of one of those things where it's like all of these brands who are not tapping into, again, like the $1 trillion industry and stuff. It's like, I don't understand why they wouldn't do it. I don't understand. And it's frustrating because it's almost that thing where it's like, okay, well, the bigger girls, like we can just like kind of up some of these sizes, or, they kind of just throw us a bone a little bit. But it's like, these are real people with real bodies that have, certain things that we need, and we still want to look cute. We still want to be comfortable. We still, I might be a bigger woman, but that doesn't mean that I shouldn't have the same amount of options as somebody else who's more of a mainstream. So to see it from even this perspective and how more limited and smaller, it just blows my mind because I just don't understand why people just wouldn't do it. Like, why is this still a thing?
Well, the one consistent thing that I have not mentioned is something that I'm addressing with my new Substack podcast. And that is going to air the first Thursday in October. I plan to do it sooner, but I met someone who has difficulty dressing her daughter with autism, and I hadn't included that in it. And I was like, this is a huge oversight. I want to make sure that we add that to that conversation. But on DFS the podcast, and DFS just stands for Disability Fashion Stylist. And one of the things that I'm adding for like our founder level, you know how Substack has like monthly, annual, and then the founder.
Yeah.
I'm doing like a 5-minute pithy podcast for them, and it is going to be teaching them about disability. These will be actual like mind exercises, things they could do weekly or monthly. They can come back to it whenever they need it, but that'll be one of the benefits of being a founder. And that's the major pain point. No one wants to get it wrong. Everyone wants to know the lexicon before they know the culture. And there is just no easy way. There's no panel. There's no, brainstorming group where you're going to learn about an actual culture without engaging, without being intentional about it. And so that is why that answered your question. Because if your mindset, I said in the TEDx talk, you cannot design for someone you don't see, and you cannot see someone that you don't value as a fashion. And one of the things that we're guilty for, and I used to do this myself, so I want to take accountability, is we deal with this from the perspective of inclusivity. No. With my disability market curation now, it's transformative because the result is inclusivity. The work is impeccable and innovative and allows people to have an option to adaptive design to enter the disability market. But that outcome is inclusivity, but the focus is not inclusivity. The C-suite does not care. The CFO does not care about inclusivity. They're trying their bottom line. They want to do the least work. Sorry, guys, it's the truth. The least work for the most, pay. And so they're not thinking about inclusivity. So even the disability community going, inclusive design. Yeah, they can't take the disability market curation only because I've curated, it's being trademarked, but the concepts, when it's in the book, yes, use it, because we've got to reframe how we see ourselves. Whenever I want to panel now and they ask me about inclusivity, I'm like, well, I see disability market as a mainstream driver of innovation.
Yeah. And not even just the inclusivity, but also, people want to be fashionable. They want really cute stuff and not just, that's what happens a lot with plus size clothing is like, no, we want to be fashionable.
Yeah. And I think too, that's all of the accelerators. I've been in 2 accelerators and I've met a lot of people from accelerators. They were like, you should have a separate shopping area for, silo disability out and, make it like the list and have a place where only they can shop. People don't want to do that.
No.
People want to shop with their family and friends. And every time that I tell people that, I think they think I'm shooting down their ideas. And I'm only telling them what the disability community all over the globe for the last 25 years for me have been telling me. They want to shop with their family and friends. They want to now post and have that same relationship to fashion and feeling a part of culture that everyone else does. They don't want to. The list is different because the list is kind of mainstream. And so people find identity in that. And can that happen for disability? Yes, I think that can happen after the idea of disability has changed. But can it happen today? I wouldn't take it on. But if someone is committed to doing that work while the definition of disability is still so negative and perceived so negatively, it's more work than return, to be honest.
I've always experienced, and just through so many conversations of growing up and being in the industry, of having that talk of just everybody having the same shopping experience, everybody being able to share the same experience with fashion and the creativity and just the way that you can express yourself. And I think that was something that I struggled with growing up sometimes, because I would have to go to the big girl store and it's like, well, why can't I just go to, the mall with my friends? Why do I got to go to like the plaza beside McDonald's to get, my pants or something? It's like, why can't? So I do appreciate the way that people are trying to really think and curate in their mind a space that would be comforting for someone with a disability to go and shop, but I really do agree with you that it's like, just give them the same experience as everyone else, add
Yeah.
on things that you can, but we should all just be able to share that experience.
I was one of those people at the beginning that was like, of course they want something separate. Of course this is, and they were like, no, we don't. And I would read dissertation after article after academic dissertation, and it was saying, all of the respondents were saying, we do not want that. We do not basically want to be siloed. And then it started to make sense to me, because separate is never equal.
And I feel like,
and I know that personally, just because of, the history of Black Americans here, separate is never equal. And it's not just happening to us, it happens to people in different ways all over the globe. And so I love the idea of challenging that and saying, yeah, I should be able to go to the store and shop with my family and friends.
Yeah. How can mainstream fashion lovers support adaptive fashion and inclusion?
I love that question. I would say that the more that you, not in a bad way, but advocate for that change. So if you're going into a store and you're with a family member or a friend, even just asking someone, hey, is it accessible for this? Or if you notice something, start to educate yourself, and then be an advocate, not an ally, because allyship is a hat you can take on and take off at convenience, but start learning about it, start reading about it. I'm only one of many people. I coined the term the disability fashion stylist for my styling system, but there are other people without that title that are doing amazing work in design. There are TED Talks, there are a ton of information. Start to educate yourself. And then if you notice something, say something. It doesn't have to be confrontational or mean. It can just be like, basically, I spend my money here. I want, my family member who is either, using a wheelchair to ambulate or an invisible disability. I want to make sure that they're comfortable here as well.
And where can someone start maybe educating themselves? Just for our listeners who are listening, or like, hey, I this is something I would love to do, and like inspired by it, but it's overwhelming sometimes to think of, okay, well, how do I start?
Well, like I said, I'm going to have a podcast about it. There will be a free version. Then they can also go to my TEDx, which is free. And the great thing about the TEDx is it will also then pull up other people.
Okay, great.
That, how it pulls up similar content. That'll be really good. And then I would also, if they start to, I don't know if people are pro or against AI, but if they, use it a little bit, if they go to perplexity.ai or AI like Claude or anything, whatever they use, and even if they just search one and just saying, hey, I want to learn about dressing with disabilities, it is phenomenal. I highly recommend that. And they can even do that with the free versions. You don't have to even pay a lot of money.
And what advice would you give to a young person with disabilities to feel confident in their personal style?
Well, I think the one thing I would say to someone to feel confident in their personal style, it would have to start with my favorite quote from James Baldwin. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed that isn't faced. So as a child, I did a lot of journaling. Either they can do audio journaling if they can't write or have dexterity challenges. They can actual write if they want to, or they can type it, or they can put together mood boards to express how they're feeling. I think the number one thing they can do, just like my dog just demanded that I continue rubbing him in the middle of this this podcast.
We love him though. He's the star.
Yes, he asked for what he needs.
Yes.
That's one of the things I think that they can just be honest with yourself. Don't do yourself a disservice by trying to act like you don't feel that way. And then start to put together mood boards about how you would like to dress, how you see yourself. Because for me, I always approach dressing through the lens of R&R, resistance and redefining, resisting the stereotypes that people put on people with disabilities, and then defining ourselves. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mhm.
so I would just tell them, go to Pinterest or go to Tumblr, like wherever you feel comfortable. Create your own mood board of how you see yourself. Create your own reality. You know, make yourself your own Sims. Whatever you need to
Yeah.
do in order to you do it. Don't wait for someone else to do it. And I gotta be honest, that's the only reason I started this podcast. Yeah, we're gonna hit it from the business side with Cur8able, but this podcast is an opportunity for me to say we have the power to change this industry. The more of us that go in and say, well, I'm really looking for clothing that's, you know, easy to put on and take off. I need something that's going to honor me, that's medically safe. And then I need to make sure that I love it. So this is my issue. The more educated, like you remember, like the more educated we are as customers, the more people will start to up their game. Because there was a time where there was no customers weren't this educated about things.
Mhm.
And so businesses could kind of just say and do what they want. But the more people that go in and say, yeah, I'm really looking for something that honors my body. I know that this is an invisible disability, but I'm looking for something with cotton. I need something breathable. I want to stay away from the polyester. You know, like the more that I can create an army of people that are like, yeah, this is my money. I'm going to spend my money the way that I can't honor my body, because I remember people telling me to put together an army of stylists. And I'm like, stylists don't need me. They don't want me to tell them what to do. You are a model. You know exactly what I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about.
Mm-hmm.
Like people take that personally. And I'm like, I'm grateful that I followed my gut. And yeah, I did my TEDx talk in 2016, but I waited to know what people wanted. And today, coming in here and having that happen was just a great reminder. People just want to know what to do. They want to know how to simplify shopping, and they
Mhm.
want to de-stress dressing.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah. And what would you say is like one of your proudest moments as a stylist, but also as an advocate?
My proudest moment as an advocate, I would have to say, really is my classrooms.
Mhm.
I'll tell you, even though I did not end up going to like beyond the review process of the book fitting in, I had one student tell me he had never heard, because I was teaching in fashion marketing. He said he had never even heard of the idea of dressing with disabilities, and it just was transformative for him. And then other students started getting in the conversation, and it wasn't a course about dressing with disabilities, but it was just the fact that, oh, we didn't know that this existed.
Mm.
So I have to say to you, thank you for considering me to have me here today, because we are in a bit of a vortex in the disability community. And thank you for letting Ziggy be here, because he's determined. But I just want to also say, for me, one of the proudest moments is dressing Katie for the Tonys. Katie Sullivan was nominated for the Tonys. She was in Christian Siriano, and
Mhm.
he put that look in his book.
Mhm.
So pulling her jewelry and doing very normal stylist things
Yep.
with a client that is, is born a double amputee, above the knee amputee, and seeing her on the carpet. She may not have won the Tony, but she definitely won the night for me,
Yep.
because I jumped in a car and went to the airport and went home. But for her, that will always be a memory for her.
Mm-hmm.
And Christian is the designer she wanted. So for me, that was just incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love Kristen Siriano. He's so good at like, going places and taking people with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a beautiful moment. Well, I think we're just about reaching our time.
Yeah, I would love for people to head over to disabilityfashionstylist.com. We're still beta testing, but the official drop is the first Thursday in October. And the podcast will always be free, but I wanted to create a podcast with a community, because that will allow people to kind of learn some of the things we were talking about. And it is a Substack. I said there's a free element. I'd love people to check that out. And then I want people to spread the word and not to just join the community if they do decide to become paid subscribers, not to have some parasocial relationship with me, but to get to know the people in the community. Because I'm inviting the fashion industry. I'm inviting you guys. I'm inviting any and everyone to become a part of that, because that's where our solutions happen.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
No, I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This has been great conversation. We are really excited about this episode. The work that you're doing is amazing. And, we hope to have you on again, and we can do an update about the podcast and kind of see
I
where
love
things
that.
are at.
Yeah.
No, I definitely, and we know that our listeners will really appreciate this. And like we said, it's just amazing work that you're doing. So everyone, we will link all of Stephanie's links and her website and everywhere that you can find her. And yeah, be sure to check her out, and we can hopefully all get involved together as well.
That sounds great. Thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Well, thank you for coming on.
Alrighty, guys. Well, thank you so much, and we will see you next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.